Welcome back, everybody. This is the final year of the 70s. The decade is over. We are now going to cover the best films of 1979. We've already covered 1970 through 1978. Now we're going to round it up with the year 1979. Let's check out all the best films that came out that year. Horror, drama, romance, comedy, you name it, every genre we're going to cover. Let's check out the best films that came out in 1979. 1941. Hysterical Californians prepare for a Japanese invasion in the days after Pearl Harbor. John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, Treat Williams, and Nancy Allen. Satire, slapstick, action, comedy. 1941 won't disappoint. A Man, a Woman, and a Bank. Donald Sutherland and Brooke Adams. The two least likely bank robbers in the known universe plan and execute a kind of ultimate heist. A Man, a Woman, and a Bank. And Nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. Richard Jordan, Oliver Tobias. Released from a British prison, an American is hired as an electrician for a London bank. A Nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. Caper Comedy and Crime. Agatha. Dustin Hoffman, Vanessa Redgrave. In December 1926, mystery writer Dame Agatha Christie's husband, Colonel Archie Christie, asked for a divorce. Alien, Sigourney Weaver and Tom Skerritt. The crew of a commercial spacecraft encounters a deadly life form after investigating a mysterious transmission of unknown origin. Alien, this movie was horrific and scary. All Quiet on the Western Front. Richard Thomas, Ernest Borgnine, and Donald Pleasance. A young soldier faces profound disillusionment in the soul-destroying horror of World War I. Drama and War. All That Jazz. Roy Scheider and Jessica Lange. Director-choreographer Bob Fosse tells his own life story as he details the sordid career of Joe Gideon, a womanizing drug-using dancer. All That Jazz. Americathon. Harvey Korman, Fred Willard. In a story told in narrative flashbacks, young TV consultant Eric McMurkin is hired by President Chet Roosevelt of a bankrupt USA organization. Americathon. Slapstick comedy. Angels Brigade. Sylvia Anderson and Jacqueline Collin. Six sexy women and a teenage girl devastate a right-wing militia before doing battle with ruthless drug pushers. Angels Brigade. Action comedy. A Perfect Couple. Paul Dooley, Martha Heflin. A repressed middle-aged divorced U.S. Greek meets a young singer through a dating service and becomes smitten. Comedy, musical, and romance. Apocalypse Now. Martin Sheen, Marlon Brando, Robert Duvall. A U.S. Army officer serving in Vietnam is tasked with assaulting a renegade Special Forces colonel who sees him as a god. Apocalypse Now won't disappoint. The Apple Dumpling Gang rides again. Tim Conway, Don Knotts. The adventures of two idiotic outlaw wannabes, Amos and Theodore. Comedy, family, and western. I love this movie. Ashanti. Michael Caine, Peter Ustinov. Dr. Anasa Limderby is kidnapped in a medical mission in Africa. Action, adventure, drama, and mystery. Ashanti. Next up we have is the classic, The Black Stallion. Kelly Reno and Mickey Rooney and Terry Garr. After being shipwrecked with a magnificent horse off the coast of Africa in 1940s, a boy bonds with the stallion and trains him to race after the rescue. The Black Stallion. 10. The movie that launched Dudley Moore and Bo Derek. Hollywood composer George Weber endures a midlife crisis, forsakes his sophisticated girlfriend Samantha, and becomes infatuated with a sexy newly married woman. 10. Border Cop, Telly Savalas, Eddie Alpert. U.S. Border Patrol agent Frank Cooper is keeping a fine balance between doing his duty and empathizing with illegal Mexican border jumpers in 1970s California. Boulevard Nights, Richard Iniguez. From executive producer Tony Bill comes a gritty and groundbreaking look at Los Angeles gang life in the city's Mexican-American barrios. This movie is awesome. And again, we have Boulevard Nights. We have another poster. What do you think about that poster? We got two competing posters. Again, this movie is a crime drama and it captures the essence of gang life in 1979. Breaking Away, one of the best films of all time, a working-class Indiana teen obsessed with the Italian cycling team buys for the affections of a college girl while searching for life goals with his friends. Dennis Christopher, Dennis Quaid, and Daniel Stern. Breakthrough. Richard Burton, Rod Steiger. In 1944, a German sergeant gets involved in an anti-Hitler conspiracy and saves the life of an American colonel. Breakthrough, drama, and war. The Bugs Bunny Roadrunner movie was huge when it came out. Mel Blanc. Bugs Bunny reflects on his past cartoon exploits. Animation, comedy, family, and musical. The Bugs Bunny Roadrunner movie is for everyone. California Dreaming. Glynis O'Connor, Seymour Castle, and Dennis Christopher. A nerd from Chicago tries desperately to fit in with California's surfing crowd, blind to the fact that their lives are even more boring and empty than his. California Dreaming is a coming-of-age comedy. The Castaways on Gilligan's Island. The castaways finally get permanently rescued and they turn their island home into an exclusive resort. The Castaways on Gilligan's Island. We love Gilligan's Island. The China Syndrome. Jane Fonda, Jack Lemmon, Michael Douglas, Scott Brady. A reporter finds what appears to be a cover-up of safety hazards at a nuclear power plant. Political thriller, tragedy, drama, and horror. The China Syndrome. City on Fire. Barry Newman and Susan Clark. A pyromaniac ex-employee of a city oil refinery creates an explosion at the facility, which starts a chain reaction of fires that engulf the entire city. City on Fire. The Concorde Airport 1979. A supersonic airborne disaster. In order to survive flight headed for Moscow Olympics, passengers of the Concorde must endure aerial acrobats. Dark comedy, action, drama, disaster. The Concrete Cowboys. Jerry Reed and Tom Selleck and Morgan Fairchild. Two ex-cowboys from Montana wind up on the run when they are set up by corrupt sheriff. Action, comedy, and thriller. Concrete Cowboys will not disappoint. Crocodile. Remember Jaws? Now we have Crocodile. A giant crocodile is killing and frightening people living nearby rivers. Horror. Crocodile. All the monsters and sea creatures, just like Jaws. Diary of a Teenage Hitchhiker. Dominique Dunn, Dick Van Patten. Teenage Julie Thurston has no wheels, so she hitches a ride to get around. Unfortunately, her last hitch may be her last ride. Disaster on the Coastliner. Lloyd Bridges, Raymond Burr, and Robert Fuller. A vengeful employee of a computer-controlled railway arranges a head-on collision of passenger trains. Can it be stopped? Donovan's Kid. Darren McGavin, Mickey Rooney. Two con men team up to rescue one's family in circa 1900 San Francisco. Dracula. 1913, a charming, seductive, and sinister vampire, Count Dracula, travels to England in search of an immortal bride. Frank Langella. This was a very good movie when it came out. Check it out. If you haven't seen it, it's a very good movie. Dreamer. Tim Matheson, Susan Blakely, and Jack Warden. The dream began 25 years ago when a young pinster wins a championship. Drama and sport. Dreamer. Escape from Alcatraz. This movie was a scorcher. Escape from Alcatraz stars Clint Eastwood, Patrick Magoon, Robert Blossom. Alcatraz is the most secure prison of its time. It is believed that no one can ever escape from it until three daring men attempt it. Escape to Athena. Roger Moore, Telly Savalas, David Niven, Stephanie Powers. A World War II adventure involving a group of Allied prisoner W's, Nazis, black market priceless art treasures. Escape to Athena. Fast Company. William Smith, Claudia Jennings. After a sponsor replaces him with an arch rival, a race car driver decides to steal the car and race it himself. Drama, sports, Fast Company. Fast Break. Gabe Kaplan, Harold Sylvester. David Green is a New York basketball enthusiast who wants to be a coach. He then is offered a coaching job at a small Nevada college. Basketball, comedy, and sport, Fast Break, featuring Gabe Kaplan, is a good comedy. Gripstraw and DeGier. When a hangman is found, the question is whether it is suicide or murder. Possible suspects are available, the world of drugs, and a suspicious sect. Rick Goyer, Rutger Hauer, and Wilkie van Amelur. The Fifth Musketeer. When French King Louis VIII learns that his twin brother Philippe could usurp his crown, he sets out to imprison him. The Fifth Musketeer, swashbuckler, action-adventure, and comedy. Chapter 2. James Caan, Marcia Mason. George Schneider is an author whose wife had just died. His brother Leo gives him the number of Jenny's McLean, and somehow they hit it off. Chapter 2. Comedy, drama, and romance. A Force of One. Jennifer O'Neill, Chuck Norris. When the detectives of an undercover police unit are mysteriously killed, a martial artist, professional kickboxer, is hired to assist them. A Force of One. French Postcards. Miles Chaplin. Blanche Baker. The believable, fresh-faced characters are naive American college students. Comedy, drama, and romance. French Postcards will not disappoint for the youth of today. The Frisco Kid with Gene Wilder, Harrison Ford, Raymond Bieri. A Polish rabbi wanders through the Old West on his way to lead a synagogue in San Francisco. Slapstick, adventure, comedy, and drama. The Frisco Kid. Gas Pump Girls. New high school graduates June and her friends take over a dilapidated service station owned by a bedridden uncle. Kirsten Baker and Sandy Johnson star in Gas Pump Girls. Total 70s? Check it out. Going Steady. Comedy, romance. Teenage romance, parties, and sex in 1950s Tel Aviv. Music is at the core of the lives of these teenagers. This is a comedy about three friends. The earlier film was The Last American Virgin. Going in Style. George Burns, Art Carney, Lee Strasberg. Three friends living on the dole decide to rob a bank. Caper, dark comedy, satire, and comedy. Going in Style will not disappoint. The Golden Gate Murders. I love David Jansen. In San Francisco, a police detective aided by a Catholic nun investigates the case of a priest who falls to his death from the Golden Gate Bridge. This movie is scary, thriller, horror, mystery. The Great Santini. Robert Duvall and Michael O'Keefe. As he approaches manhood, Ben Meacham struggles to win the approval of his demanding alpha male father. Workplace drama, The Great Santini. The Great Train Robbery. Sean Connery, Donald Sutherland. England, 1850s. A master criminal aims to rob a train with a large sum of gold. The Great Train Robbery. Adventure, crime, and drama. Hair. Political drama, rock musical. John Savage and Treat Williams. Claude Budowski leaves the family ranch in Oklahoma for New York, where he is rapidly embraced into the hippie culture. Hair. This is a great movie. Check it out. Hanover Street. Harrison Ford, Leslie Ann Down, and Christopher Plummer. Margaret is a nurse in England during World War II and married to a secret agent. Things get complicated when she falls for David, an American pilot. Hardcore. A religious businessman from Michigan has to venture into the world of pornography in California, desperately searching for his runaway teenage daughter. George C. Scott and Peter Boyle. This movie is riveting and real to life. Home movies. Nancy Allen, Kirk Douglas, and Vincent Gardenia. Keith Gordon is a creative young man who films the oddball doing all his family and peers. Comedy. Home movies. You'll love it. Hots. Susan Kiger, Lisa London. College exploitation film focusing on the wild escapades of women of hot sorority. Hots. It's a sexy, raunchy comedy for teens that came out in 1979. You'll love it. Hot Stuff. Another brilliant comedy with Dom DeLuise, Suzanne Plachette, Jerry Reed, Luis Avalos. Miami police fence stolen goods at a storefront sting operation equipped with a two-way mirror. Hot Stuff. Action comedy. And Justice for All. Al Pacino, Jack Ward, and John Forsythe. A lawyer is forced to defend the judge while defending other clients and trying to find punishment for the guilty and provide justice for the innocent. Al Pacino and Justice for All. Kramer vs. Kramer, Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep. After his wife leaves him, a work-obsessed Manhattan advertising executive is forced to learn long-neglected parenting skills. Kramer vs. Kramer will not disappoint. You'll love it. Last Embrace, Roy Scheider and Janet Margolin. Harry breaks down and loses his job after his wife is assassinated. Could it be his turn next? Mystery, romance, and thriller. Last Embrace. Life of Brian, comedy. Born on the original Christmas in the stable next door to Jesus Christ, Brian of Nazareth spends his life being mistaken for a Messiah. Parody, satire, and comedy. Life of Brian. Lost and Found. George Siegel, Glenda Jackson. An American widower and British divorcee keeps running into each other and marry. But when their marriage loses its bloom, they try to separate. Lost and Found. Love at First Bite. Parody, vampire, horror, and comedy with George Hamilton and Susan St. James. After being evicted from the castle in Transylvania, Count Dracula and his assistant Renfield travel to New York, find a woman, and kill people. Love and Bullets. Charles Bronson and Joe Ireland, Rod Steiger. Arizona cop is sent to Switzerland to bring in the girlfriend of a dangerous mobster so she can testify against him. Action, crime, and drama. Love and Bullets will not disappoint. Lovers and Liars. Goldie Hawn and Giancarlo Giannini. An American actress vacationing in Italy falls for her friend's married Italian lover. Lovers and Liars is a comedy. Lovers and Liars. Here's another movie poster. What movie poster do you prefer? Here, you see Goldie Hawn in all her glory, but Lovers and Liars is a very good comedy. You should check it out. I recommend Lovers and Liars. Luna. While touring in Italy, a recently widowed American opera singer has an incestuous relationship with her 15-year-old son to help him overcome his heroin addiction. Psychological drama, tragedy, and drama. With Jill Clayburgh and Matthew Berry. Plague. Drama, sci-fi, and thriller. An ambitious lab assistant carries out a forbidden experiment and accidentally creates a deadly plague. Plague. Drama, sci-fi, and thriller. Mad Max. Mel Gibson and Hugh Keys. In a self-destructing world, a vengeful Australian policeman sets out to stop a violent motorcycle gang. Mad Max is riveting through and through. Mad Max, here is another rendition of the movie poster. Which movie poster do you prefer for Mad Max? This movie was stunning, it was violent, and it was ahead of its time. It was awesome. The Magician of Lublin. Yasha is a Jewish stage magician who tours through Eastern Europe while destroying his career through personal problems. Alan Arkin, Louise Fletcher, and Valerie Perrine. The Magician of Lublin. The Main Event. Barbra Streisand, Ryan O'Neal. A bankrupt entrepreneur attempts to recoup some of her losses by getting a washed-out boxer she picked up as a tax loss back into the ring. Boxing parody romantic comedy. Manhattan. Woody Allen and Diane Keaton. The life of a divorced television writer dating a teenage girl is further complicated when he falls in love with his best friend's mistress. Manhattan. Meatballs. Who can forget Meatballs? Bill Murray, Harvey Aitken, and Kate Lynch. Wacky hijinks of counselors and campers at a less-than-average summer camp. Slapstick teen comedy and comedy. Meatballs is one for the ages and one of the best summer movies of all time. Meteor, disaster film, action and drama. Sean Connery, Natalie Wood, Carl Malden, Brian Keith. The U.S. must join forces with the USSR in order to destroy a gigantic asteroid heading straight to Earth. Misterio en las Bermudas. Santo, the beautiful Sylvia and Sandra disappear mysteriously at the Bermuda Triangle. Santo, Blue Demon, and Mil Máscaras, the Mexican wrestlers, must find her and kill enemies. Moonraker. Roger Moore and Louise Childs. James Bond investigates the mid-air theft of a space shuttle and discovers a plot to commit global genocide. I saw it at the theater, and the music cracked me up. Moonraker. More American Graffiti. Candy Clark, Bo Hopkins, Ron Howard. Told in 4 different New Year's Eves in the mid-60s, John, Terry, Debbie, Steve, and Lori deal with adulthood, the Vietnam War, peace rallies, and relationships. Murder by Decree. Christopher Plummer, James Mason. Sherlock Holmes investigates the murders committed by Jack the Ripper. Period drama, crime, and mystery. Murder by Decree. My Old Man. Christy McNichol, Warren Oates. An unlucky horse trainer, Frank Butler, wins big at the track and buys his 16-year-old daughter a horse to salvage their relationship. My Old Man. Drama. Norma Ray. Sally Field, Bo Bridges, and Ron Liebman. A young single mother and textile worker agrees to help unionize her mill despite the problems and dangers involved. Workplace drama and drama. Oscar winner. North Dallas 40. Nick Nolte, Charles Durning, Mac Davis. A satire of American professional football in which a veteran pass catcher's individuality and refusal to become part of the team are resented by everybody. The Onion Field. John Savage and James Wood. LA cop Ian Campbell is killed in the onion fields outside of Bakersfield. True crime, crime, and drama. The Onion Field. Being There. Peter Sellers, Shirley MacLaine. After the death of his employer forces him out of the only home he's ever known, a simple-minded, sheltered gardener becomes an unlikely trusted advisor to a powerful tycoon and an insider in Washington politics. Over the Edge. Matt Dillon. A group of bored teenagers rebel against authorities in the community of New Granada after the death of one of their own. Over the Edge is a coming-of-age crime teen drama. Best horror film of 1979, Phantasm. Michael Baldwin. Newly orphaned teenager Mike Pearson, his older brother Jody, and their friends face off against a mysterious grave robber. Horror sci-fi. Phantasm is awesome all the way around. 10 out of 10. Plague. An ambitious lab assistant carries out a forbidden experiment. An accident releases and creates a deadly plague. Drama, sci-fi, and thriller. If you love horror and mystery and sci-fi, you'll love The Plague. Portrait of a Hitman. Jack Palin's Rod Steiger. A professional hitman is hired to kill a brain surgeon. However, it turns out that not only are he and the surgeon old friends, but they are both in love with the same woman. The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh. Julius Erving, Jonathan Winters. The Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania basketball team is hopeless. Could they become winners with the help from an astrologer and some new astrologically compatible players? Check it out, it's a comedy. The Double MacGuffin. Dion Pride. Some school kids stumble across a briefcase full of money. When they go back for it, they find a body instead. The Double MacGuffin. Family and mystery. This movie is good. The Prisoner of Zenda. In order to save King Rudolph of Rutarnia from assassins and murderous usurpers, the kingdom hires a lookalike. The Prisoner of Zenda. Peter Sellers and Lynette Frederick. Quadrophenia. Jimmy Cooper loads his dead-end job and his working-class parents. He seeks solace with his mod clique, scooter riding, and drugs, only to find disappointment. Quadrophenia. Drama and music. The mod culture. Quintet. Paul Newman and Vittorio Gassman. During a future ice age, dying humanity occupies its remaining time by playing a board game called Quintet. Drama, mystery, and sci-fi. Paul Newman was exquisite in this film. Real life. Dick Haynes and Albert Brooks. A film crew sets out to record a year in the life of an average family, but things quickly start going wrong. Docudrama, high concept comedy. Real life. Rock and Roll High School. PJ Souls and Vince Van Patten. Ramones fanatic and delinquent Riff Randall battles it out with the strict new principal of Vince Lombardi High School. Parody, comedy, and musical. Rocky II. Sylvester Stallone, Talia Shire, and Burt Young. Rocky struggles in family life after his bout with Apollo Creed, while the embarrassed champ insistently goads him to accept a challenge for a rematch. Rocky II. Roller Boogie. Linda Blair and Jim Bray. Skaters band together to keep the roller disco open. Comedy, drama, musical. The best disco movie of all time, Roller Boogie. You will have fun and will make you smile and laugh. Saint Jack. Ben Gazzara, Denholm Elliott. Jack Flowers, an American hustler in 1970 Singapore, dreams of building a fortune by running a brothel and returning to the States to live a life of luxury. Saint Jack. Saint Jack, here's another movie poster. Which movie poster do you prefer of Saint Jack? It's a political drama, and Ben Gazzara is phenomenal in this movie. If you haven't seen it, I totally recommend Saint Jack. Salem's Lot, again, one of the top horror movies of '79. David Soul, James Mason, and Lance Kerwin, a novelist and young horror fan, attempt to save a small New England town which has been invaded by vampires. This movie is creepy, scary, and eerie. Savage Weekend. Christopher Allport. Several couples head upstate to the country to watch a boat being built. Unfortunately, they are stalked by a murderer behind a ghoulish mask. Savage Weekend. Remember, this is already after Halloween. Scavenger Hunt. Richard Benjamin, James Coco, Scatman Brothers, Ruth Gordon, Cloris Leachman. To inherit a fortune, various addresses of a will must compete in a wild scavenger hunt to collect selected items, but cannot be simply bought. Screams of a Winter Night. An anthology in which groups of college co-eds spend a winter's night in a remote cabin, pass time by telling each other scary stories. Screams of a Winter Night is scary and spooky. Search and Destroy. The members of a Vietnam veteran's old army unit start turning up murdered. Perry King, Don Stroud, Tissa Farrow, and George Kennedy. Search and Destroy. Sooner or Later, made-for-TV movie, Dennis Miller, Rex Smith, and Barbara Feldon. 13-year-old Jessie is in love with Michael, a 17-year-old guitar instructor. Drama and romance. Sooner or Later. You'll love it. Cheesy acting, but it's a fun movie. Spare Parts. A honeymooning couple stay at a hotel in New Mexico. It all seems normal until an ambulance pulls up and takes the husband away. Judah Spinell, Wolf Roth, and Herbert Herman. Spare Parts. Stalker. A guy leads two men through an area known as the Zone to find a room that grants wishes. Alyssa Farron and Alexander Kayadon. Stalker. Star Trek, the motion picture, reunites William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelly, and James Doohan. When an alien spacecraft of enormous power is spotted approaching Earth, Admiral James T. Kirk resumes command. This is a great movie. Check it out. Starting Over. Burt Reynolds, Joe Claiborne. A divorced man falls in love, but somehow he can't get over his ex-wife. Comedy romance. Starting Over. This is a wonderful romance comedy. You'll love it. Strangers, the story of a mother and daughter. Betty Davis, Gina Rollins, Ford Rainey. A woman who left home 20 years ago under acrimonious circumstances finds out that she is terminally ill. The story of a mother and daughter, Strangers. Summer Camp. The director of a failing summer camp decides to invite campers from 10 years ago for a free weekend event, hoping that he can trick them into fixing up the place. Comedy. Summer Camp. Slapstick. You'll love it. Sunburn. Farrah Fawcett, Charles Grodin, Art Carney, Joan Collins, and William Daniels. After a rich old man dies in a suspicious car accident in Acapulco, his widow wants his insurance company to pony up the $5 million. Swap Meet. A brainless teen comedy pepped up with a few moderate erotic scenes. The plot: Roy is jealous of Siggy, who attracts Nancy's attention, who has two clumsy guys demolishing Siggy's father's T-Burn classic. Swap Meet. You'll love it. Tess. A strong-willed young peasant girl attracts the affection of two men. Drama and romance. Natasha Kinski, Peter Firth. Tess. The Amityville Horror. James Brolin, Margot Kidder, Rod Steiger. Newlyweds and the three children move into a large house where a mass murder was committed. They start to experience strange, inexplicable manifestations. The Amityville Horror was creepy and horror. For God's sakes, get out. The Golden Gate Murders. In San Francisco, a police detective aided by a Catholic nun investigates the case of a priest who falls to death from the Golden Gate Bridge, starring David Jansen and Susan York as the nun. The Last Word. Richard Harris, Karen Black. A washed-up inventor takes matters into his own hands in a very extreme way when he learns that his house will be condemned and his beloved children left out on the street. The Last Word. The Lazarus Syndrome. Louis Gossett Jr., Ronald Hunter. An adulterous newspaper reporter who has just experienced a heart attack pesters a black doctor into investigating the questionable medical practice of taking place in the hospital. The Main Event. A bankrupt entrepreneur attempts to recoup some of their losses by getting a washed-out boxer she picked up as a tax loss back into the ring. Barbra Streisand and Ryan O'Neal. This movie is funny and great. The Prize Fighter. Tim Conway, Don Knotts, David Wing. A mobster tricks an ex-boxer into manager to make part in a series of fixed fights as part of a scheme to get his hands on an old boxing gym. The Prize Fighter. The Two Worlds of Jenny Logan. Janie Logan discovers an antique dress in her attic that allows her to travel back in time. Lindsay Wagner and Mark Singer. Imagine that. You put on the dress and you can go back in time. The Black Hole. Maximilian Schell and Anthony Perkins. A research vessel finds a missing ship commanded by a mysterious scientist on the edge of a black hole. Space sci-fi action and thriller. The Electric Horseman. Robert Redford, Jane Fonda. A rodeo star past his prime steals his company's horse and rides into the desert, accompanied by a feisty reporter. Comedy, drama, romance, and western. The Jerk. Steve Martin, Bernadette Peters. A simple-minded, sheltered country boy suddenly decides to leave his family home to experience life in the big city. Slapstick comedy. This puts Steve Martin on the map. The Jerk. The Lady Vanishes. Elliot Gould, Sybil Shepherd, Angela Lansbury. On a train in Germany, American heiress Amanda Kelly befriends older nanny Miss Froy. Psychological thriller, slapstick, and action. The Kid from Left Field. Gary Coleman, Robert Juliam. Jackie Robinson Jr., Cooper is a kid who loves baseball and also the son of a former major leaguer, now down on his luck, and now a vendor working the stands at games. The Muppet Movie. Kermit and his newfound friends trek across America to find success in Hollywood, but a frog-legged merchant is after Kermit. The Muppet Movie. The North Avenue Irregulars. Edward Herman, Barbara Harris, Susan Clark, Karen Ballantyne. A new preacher in town joins forces with an unlikely group of crime fighters. 6 dedicated church ladies who are ready, but not necessarily equipped to help. Ravagers. Richard Harris, Ernest Borgnine. In a post-apocalyptic world divided between two groups called the Flockers and the Ravagers, an adventurer and his pleasure girl try to find their way to a rumored safe haven called the Land of Genesis. The Sacketts. Sam Elliott and Tom Selleck. After the Civil War, Tennessee brothers Orrin and Tyrell Sackett are herding cattle out west, while Tel Sackett is prospecting for gold in the hills. The Sacketts. The Visitor. Mel Ferrer and Glenn Ford. The soul of a young girl with telekinetic powers and her mother become the prize in a battle between good ETs and evil ETs. Horror and sci-fi. The Visitor. The In-Laws. Peter Falk and Alan Arkin. On the eve of their children's marriage, NYC in-laws Sheldon and Vince embark on a series of misadventures involving the CIA, the Treasury Department, and Central American dictators. This movie is comedy gold. The Wanderers. The Wanderers is a teenage Italian gang in Bronx, New York, 1963. They have their confrontations with other gangs, drugs, weapons are uncool. Adult life awaits them. Ken Wall, The Wanderers. Tim, featuring Mel Gibson. A somewhat mentally handicapped 20-year-old man works as a laborer, but everyone abuses his naivete. Tim, drama and romance. Piper Laurie, Mel Gibson. Time After Time is a brilliant movie. Malcolm McDowell and Mary Steenburgen. H.G. Wells pursued Jack the Ripper to the 20th century, when the serial murderer uses the future writer's time machine to escape his time period. Tourist Trap. Oh. Chuck Connors, a group of young friends stranded at a secluded roadside museum, are stalked by a masked assailant who uses his telekinetic powers to control the attraction's mannequins. And they go, oh, right before they kill you. Van Nuys Boulevard. Comedy drama. A small-town kid hears about the wild nights of cruising the boulevard in Van Nuys. He drives out there to check it all out and gets involved with drag racers, topless dancers, and bikers. Van Nuys Boulevard. The Villain. Kirk Douglas, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Margaret. Facing hanging, a bank robber makes a deal with the corrupt banker to avoid execution in exchange for a dirty assignment. Parody, comedy, and western. The Villain. Walk Proud. Robbie Benson, Sarah Holcomb, a young Chicano gang member in Los Angeles, comes to realize that the gang life is not what he really wants, but doesn't know how to get out. One of Robbie Benson's best movies of all time. Wanda, Nevada. Peter Fonda, Brooke Shields. A drifter named Baudry DeMiro wins a young orphan named Wanda in a poker game and takes her gold prospecting into the Grand Canyon. Peter Fonda and Brooke Shields. When a Stranger Calls. Carol Kane, Charles Durning. A psychopathic killer terrorizes a babysitter, then returns 7 years later to menace her again. When a Stranger Calls. Wild Horse Hank. Linda Blair, Richard Crenna. A teenage girl tries to save a herd of wild horses from a local gang intending on capturing and selling them for dog meat. Adventure, drama, and family. Wild Horse Hank. Winter Kills. Jeff Bridges, John Huston, and Anthony Perkins. The younger brother of an assassinated U.S. president is led down a rabbit hole of conspiracies and dead ends after learning of a man claiming to be the real shooter. Zombie. Strangers searching for a young woman's missing father arrive at a tropical island where a doctor desperately seeks the cause and cure of a recent epidemic of the undead. Tissaphero, zombie horror and horror. Zulu Dawn. Burt Lancaster, Peter O'Toole. A dramatization of the Battle of Islandwana, where the British Army met its match against Zulu Nation. Those were the best films of 1979. Those are all the films that came out. What are your favorite films that came out that year? I have several. Not Close Encounters. Star Trek. The new Star Trek that came out. What else? Linda Blair. I love Linda Blair. Robbie Benson. Anything with Robbie Benson I loved. Hollywood Nights or Hollywood Boulevard Nights, whatever it was called. Those movies were exquisite. There are a lot of good movies. I forgot the titles already. But what were your favorite movies of 1979? Let me know if there's other movies I may have left out of 1979, and maybe we can cover them in another video. Thanks for watching. We just got done wrapping up the 70s decade, 1970 through 1979. Go ahead and check out my channel. Check out all my playlists. I have all the playlists separated by decade. So if you want to look at the 50s, we got the 50s, 60s, 70s. We're going to have the 80s and on. We also got the 40s and 30s. So every decade we're covering the movies, the best movies, teen movies, horror movies, all the movies, all of Hollywood, and every decade and every year. Because that's what you get here at Yesteryear TV. There's no other channel like it. I am your host, and I will give you the best in Hollywood. Alright, so thank you for watching. Those were the best films of the 70s. We just got done watching the best movies of 1979. That wraps up all the films of every year of 1970 through 1979. Let me know what your favorite year was, your favorite movies were. Now we're going to tackle the 80s. Wait till we get to the 80s. You won't want to miss it, alright? Thank you, everybody. Again, check my channel, look at my playlist if you want to go back and check out all the movies of every year from the 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s. And we got horror, we got every genre, and we got teenage films. Alright? Thanks for watching, and I'll stick around, and I'll see you all in the next video.